everyone, it's Friday, December 18th, my last day and night in Copenhagen. Just made our taxi cab arrangements for the airport tomorrow morning to return to the United States. Today we held our alternative panel. Again, just to recap from yesterday's news, the UN canceled all of the academic, observer organization, non-governmental organization side events for Friday today in order to make room for the negotiations. And so we were able to find an alternative location to do a condensed version of the side event, the panel. It was very interesting. I'm going to show you again some remarks from our Nobel Prize winning colleague John Byrne, JB as he's known. Again, because you can't get enough of JB. It was a fantastic presentation talking about some of the larger issues that are at stake here, and about his idea for this panel as originally conceived was to move the conversation away from national emissions targets and so on, down to place-based strategies that can actually achieve these things, these reductions, and do it much more rapidly and reliably than the abstractions that often national governments talk about. So you'll hear a little bit of his introduction, and you'll hear some very interesting stuff around local food, and especially on the rural side of food production, first from a colleague from Minnesota, Jim Harkness, who's the head of the Institute for Agriculture and Trade Policy, and then from a Danish colleague talking about some practices that are going on in this country. I won't upload. You've heard, I gave a talk that was very similar to one you saw earlier in the week. You don't need to listen to that again. You can hear me all the time. And my colleague Ali as well, Ali Malkawi, who presented some of his materials. So you can leave us off, the pen people, but I wanted you to have another chance to hear JB and some of these urban colleagues as well. And by way of closing, I'll just say right now as we speak, I believe President Obama is supposed to be talking to the Chinese Prime Minister. There's much anticipation about whether or not some kind of last-minute deal will be achieved. Again, while this city and this conference has been full of long-time dedicated true believers to many of these things who are expressing great disappointment about perhaps the impending failure to achieve a fully realized, reliable, significant set of targets that fully galvanizes the world's commitment to the challenges that we face. And I think whether one starts with the science or with the passion that comes from thinking about the stakes being so high, from myself, stepping back a little bit and thinking about the way power and politics and people who are thinking about today perhaps more than they think about tomorrow and so on, I can't help but feel there's been enormous progress made here, and that if it's really going to take until next year, until Mexico, to make where the next meeting is being held, to hammer out a fully blown, fully realized, workable treaty. I'm sure that's extremely frustrating to people who've been looking forward to next year for 10 or 20 years now on this important topic. But at least from where at least where I'm coming from, I think that to see 120 world leaders assemble, heads of state assemble, to hammer out an issue like this, that's progress, I think, even if the deal doesn't get completely done. And it may still tonight. And undoubtedly we will hear lots of back-patting and success announcement and everything else. I'm sure there will be much more to do. But I think we took a substantial step at this conference in getting there. So, may not be everything, may not be the icing, but I believe it's the beginning of the cake. And no reason to necessarily be depressed or even overly worried, just appropriately worried about making further progress in the coming year. So that's my closing thoughts on this. Thanks very much. I hope you've enjoyed some of this footage that we've been able to bring you. Thank you to Plan Philly for hosting, for giving me the flip cam, and for giving me a place to flip all this video to on the website, and for others who have sent it farther down, on down the net. Plan Philly, Philly.com, and others who've been further distributing this material. Thank you. It was kind of fun, and I don't know if I want to do it again, but it was a pleasure, and I hope it was at least somewhat useful. And finally, thank you to our fantastic colleagues at the University of Delaware, especially JB, the director of the Center for Energy and Environmental Policy, who it was his credentials who got us here. It was his organizing that took care of all the logistics for making this happen. So thanks, JB. It's been a lot of fun. See ya. Bye.